Well, on the issues that you raised, Laura, and they've got to focus long enough to get things done. But climate change, of course, now is a big challenge ahead for the government. The committee, the new parliamentary committee, has sat. We'll have a look at that now, and that's the group there missing, I think, the Treasurer, Wayne Swan, and the other independent, Rob Oakeshott. But let's have a look at the makeup of them now more specifically. You've got an economist there, a consultant, 3 Labor figures. The one on the right is an advisor to the other 2, and then we switch over to the other side. And you've got an advisor to the other 2, Greens, and an independent plus a scientist. Now, it could be more inclusive, of course, if the coalition had signed up.
Well, this is a loaded committee, Barry. You know, you're not there unless you agree that carbon trading is essential. And as it was, stated in advance, this is a committee to find out the best way to introduce a carbon price for Australians. This is a committee which is going to find a new way, in fact, to increase a revenue stream to the federal government.
But it's more than that, Piers. I mean,
I'm boiling it down and making it simple, because that's what it is.
Well, that's one way of looking at it. But the point is, if you, yes, the precondition is, yes, we want to have a carbon price. We're not going to have the argument about whether we should have one or not. That's fine.
Well, no, it's not fine.
Well, if that's what the various people want to talk about, I think it is fine. You look at the mechanism, and I think the question then becomes, how you actually go about finding that what the right mechanism is. And I think the important thing about this is that we have seen this huge change in dynamics on the climate change debate. The business community wants a carbon price. We can't get certainty enough to get investment in the energy sector. That's going to push electricity prices up anyway. It's not a question of this will push electricity prices up and other things won't. It's going to happen one way or another. And so the way forward is to find a pragmatic solution.
There's also a very, very simple mandate issue here. The numbers on the floor of the House and the numbers in the Senate, as voted at the last election, are for some sort of action on climate change. Half the coalition want action on climate change, but at the moment they're so close to government on a position that basically says no to everything that they're willing to let that particular dispute sit to one side. But I think this idea that a third of the
75% of the people on the floor of the Parliament would support it, Piers.
Yeah, but Barry, in 2007, Kevin Rudd went to Copenhagen wanting to lead the world. And he found, a barren field upon which to sow his seed. And the rest of the world said, go home. We're not interested. And he lost his job, and Malcolm Turnbull lost his job because of that. Why should Australia be out there again penalising industry here because it wants to lead the world in this green notion?
Industry say the opposite. They want action now so that they're ready for when it happens.
The business community,
yes.
But the business community is always looking after self-interest, and naturally it wants some sort of certainty.
But you look ahead until 2013 and do a little bit of crystal ball occasionally. Do you really think that the coalition might not be just a little exposed if they stick with this position that there be no price on carbon?
But I'd like to see what's the US position. I don't see Barack Obama.
You might be a little more conscious of that 3 years from now when the next election is.
Things have been moving overseas in their own inimicable fashion, particularly in China. And the whole point about what's happened here is that they're really talking, whatever the outcome of this committee is, what they're really talking about is a soft introduction of some form of carbon price. To minimise the impact, but to at least get the mechanism in place so that as the world comes on stream, you are in a position to start ramping it up.
Well, that's
now,
fine.
To suggest that we're leading the world, I think is farcical, given the Europeans have a carbon trading system, however corrupted it is. The Chinese are moving very fast, as I said. So it's not. It's really about getting the mechanism in place and moving it up as the international community changes.
Well, you talk about the corrupted system that's operating in Europe, and you look at the carbon price, how it continues to fall there because of that corruption and so on and so forth. You take the big step and you say, well, we don't really care about the science anymore, it's so-called settled. Well, I don't think it's settled anyway. And I think that by appointing a committee of a groupthink committee like this, it makes a laughingstock out of the debate.
There's a silver lining to the formation of that committee, Piers, and Julie Gillard will now point that out.
Oh,
Here she is.
the committee concluded that in view of the creation of this committee and its intended outreach work, that the proposal for a citizens' assembly should not be implemented, but there would be other ways of harnessing public dialogue, engagement in the science of climate change and engagement in questions of pricing carbon.
All right, we accept that can only be good news.
Well, yeah, one dopey idea replaced by one marginally less dopey idea.